there. Welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have some fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some country rustic everyday style home decor. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, we're going to be using these 2 houses from Dollar Tree. This is from Dollar Tree. It's just left over one of those thick wood slats, probably like the 10-inch. I was going to use this from the plunger from Dollar Tree, but I had to switch over to a regular dowel from Dollar Tree, a couple of long paint sticks, this from Dollar Tree, a lot of Dollar Tree products in this one, and these wall hangings because I want the hooks off of them, okay? The first thing I want to do is figure out how tall I want my little thick wood slats there, because I'm going to put, well, not the handle to that, but I'm going to put a dowel in those, and I'm going to make 2 of them. I'm going to cut them down to about 1.5 inches. All right, and then I'm taking the paint sticks. I'm going to do 2 at 4 inches. They're going to go on both outer rooftops of each house. And then on this left side, this is going to be about 3.25 inches, and then the right side one is going to be about 3.125 inches. Okay. See how I've got the middle there? I put the arrow there. I'm going to do the right side. It's going to kind of come up over the left side slat of the rooftop. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm just kind of measuring the width of these slats, which is about 1 inch. So I can, mark off 1 inch on the other side and figure out how long I'm going to make my dowel. Okay. And I end up cutting it about 9 inches. So here's my dowel because I didn't have the right size drill bit for the handle to the plunger. So this is why I went to the dowel. So I've got a 3/4 inch drill bit here. I don't remember what these are called, and I never do, and I always ask, and I always forget. And then I'm going to mark the center of each 1.5 inch size thick slat piece, and I'm going to drill in about 1/2 inch. I kind of have to keep going back and forth. I drill a little bit, and then I measure, drill a little bit, and then I measure. So, I cut a lot of that out for you, but it ends up being about 1/2 inch in. Okay? Here I'm going just a little bit further. And my goal is when the dowel fits inside each one that those little blocks come exactly to edge on each side of the house, and the 2 houses will be glued together in the middle. Okay, what I want to do now is take some Waverly Antique Wax, mix with water, a little Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth. I'm going to use those for our painting. I'm going to take 2 of these circles off of this little home decor piece from Dollar Tree. And I do want to fill the holes in, so I've just got some wood filler here. I'll let that set up and dry later, sand it off a little bit. All right, and then I am going to use some scrapbook paper. I love to do this time to time. You do not have to. You can totally just keep it painted. But sometimes I like to pull out my inner scrapbooking days, right? And then just a little bit of these fun, different ephemera pieces that have quotes and stuff on them. And the first thing I'm going to do is just measure one of the houses, and then I'm going to cut it down about 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around. I'll show you here what that looks like. Perfect, just like that. And then I'm going to cut the next piece this size. Okay, so here I am doing that because I want a little bit of that wood perimeter to show. I don't want to go edge to edge, but you could, if you wanted to use scrapbook paper, you could go edge to edge. That's perfectly wonderful. And then I'm going to cut out these fun little ephemera pieces. Like this one says, this space for writing, a note, and this one says today on it, and then I love to the left there, that little A, B, C, D, E, F, like little Rolodex tab type thing. I cut that out just to add some fun whimsicalness to it. You don't have to do any of this. You could just cover it with one piece of paper and then use the little round circles, how we'll use them in a minute. But I like to add just, fun little things and have like sayings on them that make sense. Here I'm going to, this says a day to remember. I'm going to kind of slide it in behind that paper, that kind of thing. I do cut some more pieces out, but, that's boring. We'll come back to that in a minute. First thing I'm doing here is I usually do when it's light colored wood, I like to paint my wood pieces with Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water. You don't have to mix it with water. I like it just a little bit lighter, not so dark. And then when all that dries, on some of the pieces, not all, like the rooftop, I'm going to leave that color. This dowel piece and those little square end caps, I'm going to leave that color. But on the houses, I'm going to come over with the drop cloth and paint that over it, just like here. And then that way, when I go to distress and sand them a little bit, that Waverly Antique Wax will kind of bring that brown hue up and out around that drop cloth paint and give it a little bit more of a rustic flavor. Okay, these pieces that I'm just leaving the wax color, I'm going to, you know, distress them and, you know, bring out a little of the rustic color, because you see the kind of lighter color wood around that. But if I was just to use the light color paint on the light color wood, you don't see as much of that distressing detail. Okay, here you can kind of see around the edges, see how that wax, that Waverly wax is coming out around it? Yeah, that's why I do that. Now, this again is optional. I love to do it. Those of you who've been with me a while, please don't be scared of this stuff. I find, you know, I'm going to say this, I will get like this surge of subscribers, and if you've just come to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. But then they start watching some of my other videos and they're like, oh, that's too much, I'm out. And then they unsubscribe. That's not what this is intended. When I do stuff like this, like sewing on my papers and things like that, it's just because I like that little extra whimsy, that kind of country look, that kind of thing. You don't have to do any of that. This is purely inspirational. Just take the inspiration and do your style and stay with me. I love having you along. All right, so I'm sewing on my papers here just like it's regular fabric. I actually have a size 14 needle in my sewing machine. My old sewing machine, I used to have to use a size 9 or 10 because a bigger needle would make too big of holes, that kind of thing. So you just kind of play around with it. If you want the look of sewing but don't want to do sewing, you could take like a fine Sharpie, make little dash lines along the edge, or if you're a stamper and you have like sewing style stamps, you could stamp on the sewing, that kind of thing. I like to bring a little bit more rustic to it by taking the open end of my scissor blades and I scrape along the edges of the paper here. Again, just another style that I like to do. It just gives it a little bit of a rustic kind of whimsy look. I got to move Bella over here a little bit, and I'm going to glue on my papers, start gluing them on. Some I just sewed right all together. And in some, I'm, you know, adding more strips, gluing them one on top of the other. This one, you'll see an extra little like tag in the center, and I end up taking that off, and we'll get to that later. I don't know why. Sometimes I sewed it all together, and then sometimes I'm gluing each piece on. See that one tag right there? It says Forget Me Not. I end up having to take that off. I'll explain it. Now I'm adding some of the papers on the front of our little circles here, and I'm adding a number 1 and a number 2. For 2 reasons, because these are kind of supposed to be like birdhouse style. So I have opening number 1 to get into your birdhouse, opening number 2 to get into your birdhouse, and because because I'm adding little hooks here, it's also like a little, you know, like hand towel holder, hand towel number 1, hand towel number 2. So those little 1 and 2 have double meaning. All right, so now I'm gluing my little dowel, almost forgot, snapped my finger there, that's what that was, into my little end caps here, gluing the 2 houses together here, and then I would just clamp everything to let that sit for a little bit, and I'm using my Quick Hold E6000 glue. I love that. Sets in 10 minutes so you can work with it, and then it's fully cured in 24 hours. Here's where I changed the center of my 2 quote-unquote birdhouses. I decided I needed a little more black coloring. So our Story is my favorite black coloring because the hooks are black. And when I didn't have as much black on there before, the hooks stood out too much. Now I'm taking black paint mixed with water and I'm adding some black splatters all over everything. Again, to bring in that black color, and because you all know I like to do it because I think it just kind of brings everything together under one, you know, same theme or style of like all the splatters. Understand? I'm going to show just doing 1 hook on here on the back of my dowel. I will add the other one off camera because it's pretty boring to watch me screw a hook into the back of the dowels. All right, now I'm adding in my little rooftops onto my birdhouses. And again, I'm using that Quick Hold glue, which is a derivative of E6000. I have found that if you put it on, and then you just let it set for like a minute, it becomes really tacky. So then when you put your pieces on, they kind of grab hold immediately. Now, I first put this roof on here, and you can see how it's in the center, the rooftop in the center of the roof. But then I realized I've got to push it more forward because I want to add a hanging hook on the back. And if I don't push that more forward, then it's not going to hang right on the wall. It'll kind of hang slanted. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm pushing that more forward so I have room for my hook. All right? Easy to say, I guess. Getting all the rest of the rooftops on there. they're set up, and you can see I have my hook there. I've got lots of room here between. The hook comes out just about level with the rooftop. All right, now I'm going to glue on our little openings of our birdhouses, number 1 and number 2, just kind of centering them, you know, the middle of the birdhouse and above the little hooks. I centered the hooks so that they would rest right in the middle of the birdhouses, of course. And then now I'm going to glue our little hook portion on to the bottom of our birdhouse so the end caps are flush with the bottom of the birdhouse, and that makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move on with project number 2. You're going to like this one. Again, quite a few items from Dollar Tree. We're going to use this oval wood piece from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use this holder as well as one other holder. I'll bring in a little bit. A wood slice. Dollar Tree has wood slices, although mine is not. Some hearts. Dollar Tree has lots of wood hearts. These are just wood hearts from my stash, but I do bring in some Dollar Tree hearts. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this. I'm not going to cut it directly in half. I'm going to cut it about 3/4 and 1/4, I guess. So the bottom's going to be about 4 1/2-ish, and the top will be, you know, about 3 inches, 3 1/2 inches. For this holder, I'm going to take that, you know, thing out and these little hooks out. I don't need those. And then my 2 biggest hearts, you can use whatever size hearts you want. I'm going to kind of cut about 1/4 of that bottom off. We're going to use both halves. All right, and then I have a little heart here. I end up needing 2 hearts, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut about the 1/4 of that bottom off. All right, for this, I still want to cover that opening where I took that out, so I'm using a piece of cardboard in here. And then I'll use a piece of cardstock to cover it. We'll get back to that later, but I just wanted to show you that. Here's my heart. I cut one. I haven't done the other one. I cut it at a slant. I did one at a slant, and I wanted to show you. And then, you know, now I'm doing the other one. I'm just cutting this wood with like serrated scissors because it's really, you know, thin wood. And then I'm going to sand it off. And I cut it straight across at first, the first piece, and then I decided I wanted it to slant. Put them both together. I'm using 2 because I want the width of the bottom of that heart to be as wide as I can get it as the width of that oval piece. Now our 2 little pieces here that we cut off that heart, it's going to become our beak. So what I did, it's a little bit bigger than I wanted, laid it up against the side of that oval piece and then drew, you know, the line there because it is a little bit curved, and then I cut that off, and then I'll sand it. And again, I'm using 2 pieces so that the width of both of our beaks, you know, glued together will now fit the width of that oval piece. Understandable? All right. Okay, so we used the bottom of this oval, and I didn't even think about it till I got almost near the end, like, why can't we use the top and make a smaller one? So we're going to do the same thing. Now, on this one, I didn't have 2 same-size hearts, so I had to use a smaller heart. But that's okay. It's going to look cute on the back side. But our main thing is we want that width, right? And then I cut the bottom of, see, I'll do it there. And I cut it as a slant. And I cut the bottom off, of course, so that I have 2 little beaks again. And then here I have 2 Dollar Tree hearts. They weren't both the same size. And I wanted the bigger one on top. So I had to kind of sand off that pink a little bit. But don't worry, we'll cover it up. I only use 1 heart on the other one because it's a little bit thicker than the Dollar Tree heart. So this one I use 2. Now for this little chicken, I'm using this holder from Dollar Tree, and it's thin enough metal I can just cut through it with my serrated scissors, and then I'll smooth anything off with my little Dremel tool at the top so it's not sharp. Okay, just kind of, you know, back and forth, and it's ready to go. And then I'm going to take this part out because I want to spray paint it, but I'm going to add a piece of scrap wood to this bottom here to make it so that it's heavier to be able to hold up our chicken, okay? We'll deal with that in a little bit. So those holes that you just saw in that bottom wood won't matter. We're using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Drop Cloth and Rustic Red, and these 2 colors from Waverly brand chalk paint. And of course, first thing I'm going to do is just my Waverly Antique Wax and, you know, paint up our light colored pieces of wood here, just so that when we add our other colors over them and we distress them, just like the last project, that little bit of, you know, wax will kind of pop through and give us a more rustic look. I'm not going to show all of that because it's boring. Now you can see them all painted. Now I'm putting all my little pieces together, my heart pieces here so they can sit on top. And then our little beak pieces. We want these to stay glued together, of course. Here's our little beaks. I don't know how I thought of using the bottom of the heart to make our beaks, but it works. I did have to do a little sanding on them, but that's okay. Like these are, you can tell that's the bottom of the heart. I just sanded it. Anyway, and I have some extra pieces of just scrap wood here. You could use cardboard. You don't have to use anything. But I wanted to lift my hearts up a little bit. These hearts and that one great big heart that's going to be our wing. So I'm putting some wood pieces on the back of each of those. And you'll see why in a minute. We've done this before, but you'll see why in a minute. Now I'm coming in and I'm painting these little parts of our roosters red. I will paint the top and the back, everything, because you're going to be able to see the back side. Again, I'm just going to show a little bit of all this painting because it's fun to see a little bit, but it's boring to watch it all. And in my orange and yellow paint, I kind of mixed up together because I didn't want it quite yellow and I didn't want it quite orange to paint our beaks. And then I'm coming in with the drop cloth paint to paint our little rooster bodies. And then I'll paint the stands and the bases as well, all in this drop cloth color. And the hearts, of course, our bigger hearts, because those are our wings and they have to match our roosters, right? I think this project, the most time it took was all the painting and distressing. That's what took the most time because the rest of it was pretty easy. I mean, you cut a oval in half or in 3/4 to 1/4. You cut your hearts and you're done. The rest is just painting and distressing and, of course, gluing it together. So this is the most time-consuming part. I really try to, distress this up quite a bit to make it really look rustic. I like how my sanding came out. So this piece, I spray painted it in white first. I thought it'd make a nice base so it wouldn't, peel or anything. And then I took to drop cloth and painted it to match. And then now I want to bring in this holder, this frame, and add some cardboard in there. And then a little bit of cardstock over the top. And yes, of course, I sewed that cardstock. All right, now I'm going to glue these two pieces together to make my base on this one. And then I'm going to glue this one to a wood slice that I painted the top of. Now I'm going to add some glue in here. I've got a needle here so I can kind of push the glue down inside that tiny little hole. And then I'll add this back in. And I was going to make it straight, and then I decided, no, I'm going to just slant it a little bit. I think it's going to look neater that way. You'll see me here in a minute, kind of. There we go. Now I'm starting to slant it a little bit. Here, I'm looking to see how I like it. And then I'm like, nope, I'm going to turn it. And I like the way that looks. All right, now I'm bringing in some black paint mixed with water, doing a little splatter. Did you think I would forget to splatter? I love me some splatter. But brings everything together and gives it a little personality. Not too much. I never really like a whole lot of splatter, just enough to give it something. And then when I was in the middle of splattering, it kind of got on the stands a little bit. I didn't have them far enough out of the way, so now I have to bring everything in and splatter these two. But I wasn't going to. It was just going to be on the chickens. But there you go. It was done for a reason. All right, now what I want to do, the reason I added some wood pieces to the back of these hearts is because I want to add some moss around them, so that it'll make it easier to glue our wings to the bottom or to the fronts of our chickens or roosters or whatever I want to call them. I've been calling them chickens and or roosters. You pick, you choose which one you like. And then I'll put the glue on those wood pieces and then glue that down. All right, it just makes it easier than gluing your moss onto your piece and then trying to glue your heart over the moss, because then your heart's really only sticking to the moss, and that's not going to hold very good. All right, now we're going to glue our little tops on here with that quick hold glue. See, I'm letting everything just set for a minute or so here, adding all the glue first. That way it gets a little tacky, and then I will start gluing them on, or assembling them together, I guess. Of course I'm gluing them on. Take a little bit of excess off there. I think these just turned out so super cute. And if you like these chickens and or roosters as much as I do, stay tuned, because I'm going to have a whole video of chicken and roosters coming up soon. Now, this whole project, 1 oval piece and 6 hearts. That's all it took to make it, plus our bases. Not bad at all, huh, for 2 projects. All right, so now I'm going to put the big base and the other base onto the base onto the big chicken and the base onto the little chicken or rooster. I don't know what to call them now. Trooster? A chicken rooster? Now, when I made these, they are both in the same direction. I guess I could have made this one go to the right so the other's to the left, but they're not necessarily going to sit together. So if you want these two to sit together in your home decor, maybe think about putting, one to the right and one to the left. I didn't think about it, but they're not going to sit together anyway, so it doesn't matter. And that makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move on to project number 3. For this project, we're bringing in some fabrics. I know, but I like to do a little sewing every now and then. I'm going to bring in this quilted fabric I got at Hobby Lobby. It's kind of it's not white and it's not the yellowy color. It's kind of the beige tone. And then this upholstery fabric from Hobby Lobby and Bella in the middle. I think this came from Hobby Lobby or Joann's. It's just something with a little texture on it. You can use any fabrics you want. This fabric came from Jubilee Fabrics. And then I'm going to use this. I got it at a local thrift show we just attended. And it's an old tablecloth that's got staining on it, everything. I got it for like $10, but I love it because I can cut it up because it's all stained. I will have a free pattern for you. This is the top and this is the bottom. You'll just cut each piece out of your fabrics and of course we'll assemble. I'll show you what I'm using in a minute. Now, yes, I know this is a sailboat and not everyone has a nautical theme. I don't have a nautical theme. I'm more eclectic. I like all my colors to match, but you know, I don't care if it's, you know, chickens and pigs and flowers in a room as long as my colors match. But here's the deal. It's a beautiful hot summer day in August and the sky is blue overhead and the waters are beautiful and you're sitting with friends and family and you're snacking on snacks and you're drinking whatever you're drinking and you're laughing and making memories and sailboats are going by in the water. Maybe you're watching a sailboat regatta and it's just peaceful and it's beautiful and that alone will make me make a sailboat pillow. Okay, so now you want to make one, right? So quilted fabric, this first piece is 17 by 17. I'm going to cut 2. All right. Then this upholstery fabric, this is 15 by 15, and I'm only going to cut 1. I just kind of want like a framing around the sailboat. Here's my bottom piece of sailboat. I only cut 1, and I'm going to go ahead and cut batting for mine. It's 2 pieces of batting. Because see, like the difference between the height with the batting and without the batting? You choose, but I like the batting because it gives me kind of a quilted look, and it lifts up my pieces off of that background. This is a piece cut out of that tablecloth material. It's kind of, you know, the deck to the sailboat. 1 piece of batting. All right, and then this piece, the bigger sail, it is 2 pieces. You really only need 1 piece of fabric, but it was folded when I cut it, so I left it 2 pieces, and then 2 pieces of batting. You could use 1 piece of batting if you want, and then the tablecloth, and again, 2 pieces of batting for the smaller sail. And then all the different sailboat pillows that I saw like on Pinterest, they had a cute little flag. So I'm kind of making, you know, 2 pieces of that tablecloth fabric. I kind of sandwiched it between some batting. And then this is a piece of placemat. I picked those up at thrift stores. Those who've been with me a while know that. I like to cut them up and use them as fabric because I like the texture. Now I will tell you later on, you're going to see this flag here. I end up cutting it a little bit bigger than the actual pattern that I give you. Now I'm going to use some, just by choice, some of this crochet trim from a Dollar Tree. I want to just do a little fun to the, you know, deck of the sailboat. I'm going to kind of wrinkle it up like this, or however it turns out, and then add a little bit of this. This is like the fringe off of the placemat that I'm using here. Yeah, I just wanted to put that in there for some fun texture. Totally optional. All right, now if you're a gluer, hot glue or a fabric glue, you know, you're going to glue your 1 piece down onto your top pillow fabric there, and then you're going to just start gluing all the rest of your pieces down, whether or not you use batting. If you want to add some decorative trim along there, you can do that. And then you're going to glue your 2 pillows together. You're going to come at the edge right in between the 2 fabrics, gluing about 3 3/4 all the way around, leaving a nice opening for stuffing. If you're a sewer, it's the same for us, but we only want to use the top pillow pattern. Don't put them together. And we're going to sew this first. I'm going to sew twice around it just to give it some fun. And then you're just going to start sewing your pieces on around each piece, around the perimeter of each piece of your sailboat. Right? Easy. And then we will sew our pillow together. 3 3/4 all the way around, leaving opening for stuffing. All right? Here is the sewing process. Now, I don't know, I can't talk this much through the sewing, so I'm going to just give you a little bit of music through here. I know it's a little bit different as you watch me sew all the different pieces of the pillow together. And we made it. That was a long stretch, so that's why I added the music in. Now what I'm going to do is come off camera and sew around here, leaving that opening for stuffing. And here it is all done. And I'm taking some sandpaper. It's an easy way to distress around the edges of fabric. I don't go really heavy. I don't want to mess the fabric up, but I just kind of distress that, and I distress, around the batting and things like that, and just allow those edges to fray nicely. And then we're going to start stuffing our pillow, of course. Now at this point, I'm kind of seeing my space between the sails, and I realize I just have a little bit too much space there. So look at that as you're putting this together. If you want to make one of these, remember, it's a great summer pillow. It would look nice on your couch with a floral pillow, whether or not you have a nautical theme. It would be beautiful. Anyway, so once you get your pillow as full as you want it, of course, then if you are a gluer, you can go ahead and glue that opening closed or sew it closed. So back to the space between the sails. What I did is took a little piece of tablecloth here and I cut a strip, sewed around it, and then I glued it on. Couldn't really sew it on because I already had my whole pillow together, but I thought it looked okay because it kind of just looked like it matched this part of the deck, right? Like I meant to do it and nobody would know the wiser. Last thing I'm going to do is take some sandpaper again and distress and, along the edges of the outer part of the pillow, and that makes this project complete. So I hope you like all of the projects we did today. They are all very different, aren't they? A little bit eclectic, as I am. Everyday home decor, and that's how we're going to do quite a few of our next videos. It's just going to be odds and ends, different types of home decor, except for a video or so of some more troosters. Remember chicken and roosters? We're now calling them troosters. Anyway, leave me a comment down below and let me know which project you will make right now. I'm betting 90% of you are going to go for those troosters. Anyway, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it if you'd like. I'm really trying to get my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Now, before I go, as with tradition, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. I am humbled as I put pen to paper, thinking about the wholeness and rest, the mercy and grace that once did not exist, but now is most evident within me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. When we encounter Jesus, our whole life changes. No longer does our me mentality exist, but instead our heart sees so much clearer as our eyes adjust to the foundation we have in Jesus. Our life is more peaceful, our joy is more complete. In the Bible, the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 28 says, "You have made known to me the paths of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence." With Jesus, nothing in our life needs to feel hopeless, fearful, rejected, lonely, unloved, defeated, or lost ever again. Before Jesus, life was hopeless, but now with Jesus, life brings hope found. We have a future, a purpose, a peace that never fades, and a wholeness that never leaves. In Jesus, we never have to fear or worry because we have a stable foundation that keeps us safe and secure. The book of John, chapter 14, verse 27 says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world does. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." In Jesus, we will always have acceptance. He will never leave us alone, and He will always love us. He made us and called each one of us by name. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 39, "Neither height nor depth nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." No matter what problems may arise, we can trust to know that Jesus will always fight for us. In the midst of any difficulty, He will part the sea so that we can walk through on dry land. In the midst of any battle, we have comfort knowing that we will not be defeated. Jesus will always use the slingshot and take that giant down. Psalms 28, verse 7a, the Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. In essence, throughout our life, what we do matters and how we live matters. With Jesus, we are no longer lost. We have been found. With every breath, we are connected to him. We live in him, and he lives in us. No matter what race is before us, we must always keep our eyes on him to that finish line. He is and should always be the center of everything we face. He is true. He is the living God, and our life is nothing without him. The book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 28, it is through him that we live and function and have our identity. The book of Psalms, chapter 141 and verse 8, but my eyes are fixed on you, sovereign Lord. In you I take refuge. And the book of Colossians, chapter 1, verse 17, he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.